Calaroga Shark Media.
According to retailers, the most popular Halloween mask this year is O.J. Simpson. And the most popular Halloween greeting is, "I'll kill you and that guy who's bringing over your glasses," or treat. And the Pope came out with a book this week, which contains a series of essays examining faith and morality in today's secular world and the changing role of the Catholic Church as it approaches the 21st century. The book is entitled, "God Himself Told Me That O.J. is Guilty." In other book news, Prince Charles released an autobiography in which he states that he never loved Princess Di and that his father pressured him to marry her. The book is entitled, "Of Course O.J. Did It. I mean, come on."
Comedian Robert Burrell tweeted, O.J. Simpson's family announced he died of cancer. Cancer, on the other hand, has begun looking for the real killer. Normal to like that joke. Sam Morrell wrote, the movie Defending Your Life, but with O.J. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Decider did a long interview with Neal Brennan. Sean McCarthy is your interviewer. He hosts a podcast called The Comics Comic. I know Sean a little bit back from my serious days. Sean asked Neal, you mentioned Joe Rogan in your special, but then also Dave Chappelle. These people have massive platforms and audiences who are listening and looking to them, who are saying we're just comedians, but somehow also weighing in on and leading the conversations on weighty issues. Neal said, but they were always weighing in on them. They were never not weighing in on them. It just didn't make a difference before. They were always like, that's a comedian. At a certain point, I believe in the early 2000s when Jon Stewart and Chris Rock, and I would even throw Michael Moore in there, and they got bumped up a notch. And Jon Stewart would tell you as much. His final daily show before he retired, he said, it didn't help. Fox is more powerful than when I started. It's like, is Dave helping or hurting trans people 1%, one direction or the other? Statistically, I'm going to bet not. I can't prove it, but they can't prove that he is. You know what I mean? But it's a good position to be like victimized by this comedian, but it's like, the whole thing was supposed to be about being funny, and then it became leadership. And the analogy I've been making is people complaining that Snickers bars aren't very nutritious. No kidding, it's a Snickers bar. If you're looking for leadership about any issue, why are people going, well, what do the clowns think? It's insane. Rogan and other comedians on their podcast will defend themselves by saying, we're just comedians. Sean asked, how much do you think social media or podcasting has blurred the lines for audiences in terms of thinking of comedians as purely as entertainers versus thinking of them as influencers? That's a great question. Neal said, and then everybody asked, is comedy under attack? And it's like, no, it's not under attack. It's more like it's all these questions of credibility. Like comedians are news anchors now, and that's not because comedians are pretending to be news anchors. That's because news anchors are topless on New Year's Eve. Or news anchors are, David Muir is like a model. It's like he looks like a fashion model. That doesn't mean he's not a good broadcaster, but I'm just saying the incentives, the structure, everything's perverted, and then people are turning to comedians, and then the news is trying to blame comedians for it. So the NIH's total mangling of the COVID vaccine and mask rollout is Joe Rogan's fault. And then you go, well, Joe needs to be. No, he doesn't. The minute Joe becomes a news thing, he's not. It's no fun. The whole thing is, I'm just some guy, and here's what I think. And so many people liked him and appreciated the stuff he said that it just had a huge following. Thought this was interesting, too. Neal said, is Ellen DeGeneres nice? What? Did she give millions of dollars away to charity? Then yes, she's nice. Is she hilarious? Then yes, she's nice. From the Daily Mail, a story about Tracy Morgan. There are a lot of N-words in this one. I'm going to substitute in the word fella so I can roll through the story without having to stop and awkwardly say N-word 50 times. This from the Daily Mail. The headline, Tracy Morgan's former co-star Bobby J. Thompson accuses comedian of bullying him on set for stealing scenes when he was just 7. Thompson was on Comedy Hype News earlier in the week. He said Tracy Morgan accosted him when he was just 7 years old during their time together on The Tracy Morgan Show, which ran on NBC in 2003. Thompson is now 28. Thompson said, I remember being a kid on a certain set, and the star of this certain project that I was working on, the fella got mad at me. I'm just a 7-year-old kid just doing my job, bro. He got mad at me, grabbed my collar, and he was like, who the F is that on my sign? My fella? That's how he handled me. He said Tracy Morgan told him to stop getting in scenes and hamming it up. The same fella turned around and did an interview and acted like it was all good, like, oh yeah, if he's stealing a scene, then that's what it should be. I only want to be the best, Thompson said, but fella, that's cap. That ain't the truth. That ain't how you felt for real, because you took me as a 7-year-old child and made me feel bad for doing my job well. Thompson said Tracy's criticism hurt him because he was only doing what he was learning from Tracy. That's the cold part. He claimed the experience has messed him up. You rained on a 7-year-old kid's parade. During the interview, Thompson had avoided mentioning the name of the actor. The interviewer guessed it was Tracy Morgan from the context clues. Then Thompson said, "I ain't ducking nothing. It's Tracy Morgan." He says he has no bad blood towards Tracy, but the kid in me has still heard about that. The grown man in me don't give a damn. Tom Segura's got another deal with Netflix. It's a 6-episode dark comedy series that Segura will star in and produce. In Untitled Series, Tom Segura will serve as the narrator. We'll see him take the viewer through a series of vignettes in each episode. The twisted comedic sensibility of a stand-up is the core DNA of the series, where every story will unfold in a hilariously disturbing way only Tom Segura could imagine. All right. 2025 for that one. Gerard Carmichael, who I'm just not interested in. He was on Andy Cohen's show, and they started talking about Gerard's foot fetish. Don't care. Carmichael said, it's new. I'm really into feet lately. It was taboo. Cohen said, yeah, because you're sucking some feet on a grinder date in the first episode of the show. Carmichael said, yeah, all in. Whatever. The LA Times spoke to Chris Estrada. They had some fun banter about Twitter. The interviewer said, on Twitter, which is always what I refer to it as, not X, Estrada said. I joke around with that. I know Elon Musk bought Twitter and it's called X, but it's the only time I feel like an old person that doesn't respect pronouns. I'm like, you were born Twitter and you will die Twitter. I will not call you X. That's a great joke. LA Times on Twitter, you posted about how standing at 5'11 makes you a tall Mexican. What are some advantages of being a giant among your people? Estrada said, definitely going to Northgate and reaching things other Latinos can't. I joke about that because 5'11's not tall, but around a lot of Latinos that I grew up with, sometimes I was the taller one. I always joke around, if you're over 5'11, you're tall, but if you're over 5'11 as a Latino, you have Andre the Giant disease. The Times interviewer said, well, I'm 6'6 and Mexican, so I'll consider you my brethren. Estrada said, you have Andre the Giant disease. Did you grow up by a nuclear plant?
Gossip Corner.
And on Gossip Corner, Amber Rose has set the record straight. She is not dating Chris Rock. I don't know why you think she was. They were seen out and about together in New York City, and she told Entertainment Tonight, it was not a date. I've been friends with Chris Rock for like 13 years. We met for coffee. We talked some crap to each other. He made me laugh because he's hilarious. And that's our friendship, just friendship. It's comedy festival time. Let's see what's going on at the various festivals. John, did you preload the Melbourne website? Of course not. Maybe I'll do that now while I tell you about Moontower. At Moontower, 7 o'clock, Nicole Byer, 7 o'clock, Jeff Ross, doing a lot of shows. Shane Gillis at 8, Joe Pera, 9:30, Rachel Bloom, 9:30. Let's see. Now I'm cheating because I already taped Saturday, so I know tomorrow I'm going to say let's go see Shane Gillis. So let's see Nicole Byer at 7 and do Joe Pera at 9:30. How's that sound? And at Melbourne, let's do some without clips today. Lawrence Driscoll's show is called The Prodigal Son. Prodigal doesn't mean what you think it does, but Lawrence can't explain it for you. He's too busy sorting through flashbacks of growing up gay in rural Australia and escaping to the city as a gay refugee. Here's hoping the healing power of laughter works. No reviews? Oliver Hunter's show is called Baby on Board. Oliver's back and he's had a massive year. He's getting married. There's a baby on the way. Is he ready? Absolutely not. Is he excited? He's working on it. Oliver's laid-back and laconic style will have you rolling with laughter. Scenester called it charming, witting, and offering a perspective that doesn't get much airtime. Rachel Delaney's show is called Motion Sickness. Car crashed. Job sacked. Bags packed. Did someone say Euro summer? Rachel lives her life in the fast lane. That is until a life-changing car accident sends her into a fashionably early quarter-life crisis. The result? The trip of a lifetime, baby. Hugging comedians said it was legendary, 4.5 stars. Theater Thoughts said Tunnelly almost quite literally explodes onto the Melbourne comedy scene. The Australian Arts Review said tightly wound original songs and wry asides. And kicking off today until next Sunday, April 21st, it's the Dubai Comedy Festival. 2 venues there, Dubai Opera and the Coca-Cola Arena. Roxy Cinemas at the Dubai Hills Mall will also host several shows, putting a spotlight on stars from the Egyptian, Emirati, and South African comedy scenes. The Frank Skinner Show on Sunday, it's been canceled, so if you're heading to Dubai to see Frank Skinner, full refunds will be provided, though, so that's good. Catherine Ryan has been added to the lineup. She'll play Dubai Opera tonight. She says, I'm a self-author of my comedy, so I do talk a lot about my life and mistakes, But now I do have to consider more people's feelings. Like, I want to talk about my family and kids, but I don't want to dunk on my husband constantly either, because I do plan to keep him around. And with all that's been happening in my life, I've pretty much checked out of comedy for a couple years, and the landscape changed during that time. So the challenge for me now is how to still make self-deprecating jokes and not be afraid of this new genre of comedy where people are scared of being canceled and very careful. Fortune Feimster is taping her new special at the Moore Theater in Seattle tonight and tomorrow. She's described as affable, charismatic, and one-of-a-kind. Richard Cervate has a new comedy album, They're Gonna Know, that's out on Blonde Medicine. They're Gonna Know is an exploration of the modern world we live in where trolls no longer live in caves, but abound in incel forums in the cloud. The internet's out of hand, and Richard is not afraid to say it. The album also tells the story of Richard buying 300 bitcoins when they cost $1, so he must be a trillionaire, and spending them all on magic mushrooms. Oof, if the math is right. That was a $7 million trip. And that is your comedy news for today. On the weekend, tomorrow's a normal episode. Sunday, I took a look at the updated Adam Sandler movie list. You know, he has 47 films. Vulture ranked them, and I commented. So that's Sunday's episode. Tomorrow is normal. See you then.